No, we're looking at a national emergency because we have a national emergency. Just read the papers. We have a crisis at the border of drugs, of human beings being trafficked all over the world. They're coming through. And we have an absolute crisis, and of criminals and gang members coming through. It is national security. It's a national emergency. We'll be letting you know fairly soon.
I'm in the break room, and I see the president say because this country's in an emergency. Well, I know that's the action he's got to take. I know he's been mulling it. We first told you this over a year ago, another global exclusive. And you watch, and sometimes he changes plans, but 95% chance tomorrow Trump will declare a national emergency. So this is happening. And I did a special report on Saturday saying the president is preparing a national emergency. He is preparing to introduce a national emergency to the public. And then if the globalists try to block securing it and activate their Antifa or other terror groups, there's the Mike Adams article we were talking about from a few months ago. The president is set to deal with that. So Trump set to declare national emergency to stop the deep state January 4th. January 5th article, President Trump is preparing the public for the introduction of national emergency. From sources I have in the Pentagon, from sources we have close to the White House, and from our own research and understanding U.S. law and history. You have all noticed in the last year that I've said Trump must declare a national emergency to cancel the national emergency that Obama put in before he left office in December of 2016 when they knew Trump was coming in and was president-elect. Not just for border security or integrity of CONUS, but also so that he can then use those emergency powers to remove the bureaucrats and policies that have been put in place that circumvent his administration and his executive power. Infowars.com, newswars.com, but also Mike Adams of naturalnews.com have been hammering this narrative in the last year because this is what must be done. And we're in a real crisis against the globalists, the Chi-Coms, the EU, the economic war, the private Federal Reserve. We have the head of the World Bank being made to resign today. The president can only do that under a national emergency. And there are executive orders in place going back 50-plus years, really before that, to the War Powers Act in 1933, that under any economic emergency, military emergency, or other emergency, particularly the border, the president can do this. It isn't martial law. It isn't a civil emergency. It isn't regular laws being suspended. It's how the executive interfaces with the agencies and the bureaucracies that are mutinous and ignoring Trump. So you notice he's removed hundreds of top people that were working with the deep state. And it's all unfolding very, very fast. Now, remember, I just said Saturday in a special report that Trump is preparing to institute a national emergency. And you notice, again, going back months ago, we have pointed that out over and over and over again because we understand what is at stake here. I'm not calling for martial law. The left is spinning that. They're the ones wanting civil emergency. They're the ones wanting impeachment. They're the ones wanting to bankrupt and plunge the economy. They're the ones trying to break our borders. They're the ones having Antifa go out and storm everywhere. Reagan declared a national emergency with the strike at the air traffic controllers. He had to declare it to order them back, essential employees. There's been other emergencies. Obama used one and Bush used one to hold us hostage and give trillions to foreign banks in 2008 and 2009. Paulson, the head of the Treasury, said there'll be martial law, tanks in the street, and blood if you don't back the president's emergency to Congress, if you try to buck it and don't appropriate it. But the president could have still done it on his own. So Trump's doing this not to sell us out to the New World Order, but to stand up against it. And this country is in a major, major crisis. So here it is today, Fox News just minutes ago, talking about his announcement, dealing with the wall and it being steel and not concrete, which is still a wall, that he'll be giving a special speech tomorrow night. It's going to be from the Oval Office, and it's going to be on the country being in a crisis, and the president's going to declare the national emergency tomorrow night. Then on Wednesday, there'll be a messenger from the White House that marches into the new Congress into the House of Representatives and announces to the Speaker of the House that the president has declared an emergency. Now, normally they don't cover it when they do this. Every president's done it since Roosevelt. They don't want you knowing about this. This is how they've done all this stuff. This time, when that emissary from the president marches into the Sergeant of Arms of the House of Representatives, it's going to be all over the news, like it's a big, bad, evil thing. So how do I know this? I have sources saying it was imminent. I've been telling you for a year it needs to happen. We're going to pull up the articles, not just from last week, but a year ago, 6 months ago, 2 months ago, 3 months ago, October 27th, all of it. We're going to get that up on screen for you. Now, here is Fox News, and the president hints at it. He says this country is in an emergency. Here it is, right now.
We'll build a steel barrier, steel. It'll be made out of steel. It'll be less obtrusive, and it'll be stronger. But it'll be less obtrusive, stronger, and we're able to use our great companies to make it by using steel.
We have Fox team coverage. Mike Emanuel on Capitol Hill with reaction from lawmakers. But we begin with John Roberts, who is live at the White House. And that news coming in just a few moments ago, the president to do a primetime address tomorrow night at 9 p.m. from the White House. John.
Dana, good afternoon to you. Yeah, with the Christmas holidays, the New Year's holiday over, and everybody back to work except for federal workers, of course, and people focused, the president wants to make a case for why he needs to get the money to build a border barrier with a primetime address tomorrow night. We do not know if it will be in the Oval Office yet, or if it might be one of the other many rooms here at the White House. When you do something from the Oval Office, it tends to have a lot more importance attached to it than if you did it, say, from the map room or somewhere like that. We expect that the president will probably tweet the location coming up here in the next few minutes. But it's clear that he will, tomorrow night in this address at 9 o'clock, make the argument from a national security standpoint that the money is needed for the wall. The president tweeting, quote, "I am pleased to inform you that I will address the nation on the humanitarian and national security crisis, underscore crisis, on our southern border, Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern." The president will also travel to the southern border on Thursday to promote the need for billions of dollars to build a steel barrier along some parts of the border. He is going to be going, we have confirmed through law enforcement sources, to the McAllen, Texas area. Now, what's interesting is there's about 4 miles of steel barricade at the border crossing there between the area south of McAllen and Reynosa in Texas. But that's an area where it's very difficult to build a wall because you've got the Rio Grande meandering its way all the way west to El Paso and all the way east to Brownsville. And you have a lot of private landowners there who do not want to be cut off from the river by a border fence. So it's likely that his plans for a border fence would not be applicable to that area. But of course, there are large swaths of New Mexico, Arizona, and California where it would. In a letter to the Senate Appropriations Committee Chairman Richard Shelby, the president adding some detail to what he wants, saying, quote, "The president requests $5.7 billion for construction of a steel barrier for the southwest border. A physical barrier wall creates an enduring."
Okay, so that's from Fox News just literally like 10, 12 minutes ago. I'm in the break room, and I see the president say, because this country's in an emergency. Well, I know that's the action he's got to take. I know he's been mulling it. We first told you this over a year ago, another global exclusive. And you watch, and sometimes he changes plans, but 95% chance tomorrow Trump will declare a national emergency. So this is happening. And I did a special report on Saturday saying the president is preparing a national emergency. He is preparing to introduce a national emergency to the public. And then if the globalists try to block securing it and activate their Antifa or other terror groups, there's the Mike Adams article we were talking about from a few months ago. The president is set to deal with that. So Trump set to declare national emergency to stop the deep state January 4th. January 5th article, President Trump is preparing the public for the introduction of national emergency. In fact, we probably should just get my special report. It's pretty powerful from this weekend and air that in some of the segments because I was particularly focused and I really laid out why the president needs to do this and the reasons for it. And so what we'll do is I'm going to open the phones up on this subject and others, but particularly this one. And then I think Gerald Celente, who always does a great job, will be fine with me taking a couple segments of the start of the next hour before he comes on to air my piece on that, but I want to be extremely focused and clear here. We're already under Obama's emergencies. He has stay-behind embedded networks working against the country. That's now been admitted. I told you that 2.5 years ago, that when he was leaving, he pulled that, and then he did. We know how this stuff works. And so the way it operates is they've built this whole infrastructure around COG, continuity of government and other systems, where the president can't change any of this unless he exercises his power to remove it. So if you're cutting a kid out of a car, it's the car wreck that put him in the car all hurt. You're cutting him out. That's the emergency. But the wreck's already happened. So they're going to spin this as martial law. That's not what it is. It's the president having to exercise executive power to get back control of the bureaucracy. I'll give the number out when we come back. Stay with us. You know, most men spend their time studying how football works or how to act cool. And that's okay. Or how to have a bigger truck, which I've got a big truck. I like that too. But, you know, I've spent my time studying how the world works. And when I went and saw the movie Vice, which is got some disinfo on it, but it's very well done overall, it's Dick Cheney obsessed with COG and continuity of government and the power of the executive. And by the president letting him operate as a co-executive, he then was able to create a fourth branch of government. That's how powerful the executive is if it's unopposed. Now, they've been using the executive to transfer power away from Congress, the courts, and the people. Trump is using it to claw it back and doing it under constitutional emergency. So just as I said at the beginning of the show today, all indicators are Trump is taking the gloves off and putting the big boy pants on. And he's firing the Chi-Com World Bank head, who was working for the Chinese to give them all our tax money to take over Africa mainly and Latin America. I mean, what treason? And Trump called it out a year ago and he just sacked the guy. And this all indicates the national emergency, as I said back in October, has already been declared. And they're going to send an emissary from the White House Wednesday morning to the session of Congress, and is going to declare, and I'm going from memory, we need to look this up, it's declared to the House. Sometimes they send an emissary to both. Sometimes they have the vice president do it, but that gives too much fanfare. Usually they slip it under the rug, under the door, because it can get a little sticky if they're using it to transfer trillions to foreign banks, or they're using it to do things like that. But this is the president announcing an emergency, generally for war or famine or calamity. And our borders, the left keeps saying, oh, there's no border problem. Oh, yeah, look at Europe. Look at here. Give me a break. So they're going to spin this as martial law. This is the opposite. The country has been crashed. The globalists are trying to bring it down. I'm going to explain this again because the media is going to misrepresent it. Obama declared new emergencies 6 of the 8 years he was in office. By the way, the emergencies were extended. So he only had to do it 6 times because he wanted to change something and why he said there was an emergency. So you're going to learn that the president in October declared a classified national emergency to the executive. And now he's either going to have a deal by tomorrow night that Pelosi says that they're going to do the wall and all the rest of it, or he'll declare the national emergency. But it's already been done, so it doesn't matter. You understand how that works? He just hasn't declared it to Congress to let him know that he's overriding them. And the only way you can override the president in an emergency is impeachment or assassination. It is its own separate branch of government. But you have, just as state legislatures used to until 1913 and the 16th Amendment, they could recall U.S. senators. They were creatures of the state to balance out the federal government. House members are generally elected. Senate members were voted for by the legislature to create a parliamentary check and balance. The same year we got the Federal Reserve Act, the income tax, we got the senators becoming federal creatures. Well, that was a major loss of states' rights and states' powers. And I believe we should bring back where we were before the 16th Amendment. So things have gotten way out of balance. And before, the executive had too much power. But everything Trump's doing with executive power is very judicious. The Supreme Court's been saying he's right on this stuff. And That's where we're headed here. And that's why the Democrats are so scared. They're not worried about the future of the court. They think they're going to sew this up. But if the Supreme Court stands with Trump during all of this is coming up, it's going to be a big problem. You see, the House indicts, the Senate tries, and it's not going to go there because Trump has all the Trump cards. The ace of spades. The Clintons and the Obamas were heavily involved with Saudi Arabia on 9/11. And he has a bunch of other ace cards. He's got a handful of ace of spades. This isn't like a regular card game. He's probably got 20 ace of spades, 20 ace of clubs. It just goes down the line from there. It just gets better. Gets more sickening. And this is just an epic time to be alive, ladies and gentlemen. You need to understand that. And I'm proud of InfoWars. I'm proud of our audience because you have lobbied the president to declare the national emergency. Quite frankly, he's never given an Oval Office address. They're all saying, oh, we don't know if it'll be in the Oval Office. We don't know. No, it's going to be in the Oval Office if he declares the national emergency. And I'm saying the national emergency has already been declared, but it will be officially declared. And even if Pelosi agrees to pass the border funding and back off, Trump will say to speed it up and to hurry it up and to make it work better, I'm going to go ahead and declare the emergency. Oh, look, now Schiff's saying it. There it is. Trump may declare a national emergency. And then Schiff comes out and says he has the power to, but I really hope he doesn't. Look how scared he looks. These criminals that have used old executive power left behind by Obama, hoping Trump didn't figure this out, hoping Trump didn't remove it. But see, even Schiff can't lie. I forgot I saw that video this morning. And because he knows that it's in the Constitution, it's in the law, he just goes, well, he has that power, but I hope he doesn't. It's not about the wall. The wall's only part of it. It's about checkmating these creatures who, again, Obama put executive powers in and emergencies that are still operating. Trump has to reverse it. He has to fire the head of the Federal Reserve, fire the head of the World Bank. Oops, just happened. But for face saving, he resigned. He's going to fire them all. It's like the globalists are Tokyo and Godzilla's Trump, and he just came out of the water, and he's pissed. Maybe we should play Blue Oyster Cult Godzilla when we come back. because if they want to fight, you better believe they're going to get one. This is the joy of information war. Only thing better would be, I guess, the hors d'oeuvres of the physical dainties. But this is what it's all about, ladies and gentlemen. And the country's been on its deathbed. China's threatening war. We're arresting the Chinese spies. They're rolling them up. And that's why the rest of the deep state is flipping out, because they are complicit traitors and they're fighting for their dirty political and physical lives. General McChrystal and all this other trash. All these corrupt billionaires on the Chi-Com payroll look scared, don't they? Because they're un-American scum. Their army is a bunch of Antifa professor meth heads and other asswipes. 877-789-ALEX. I want to talk about the national emergency. You think Trump's right? You know it's coming. How will the enemy hit back? 877-789-2539. Trump gave us a prelude to this last week. He said it's going to be a hell of a year. So strap yourselves in and get ready for a wild ride. Woohoo! Yeah! Yeah! 877-789-2539.
No, we're looking at a national emergency because we have a national emergency. Just read the papers. We have a crisis at the border of drugs, of human beings being trafficked all over the world. They're coming through. And we have an absolute crisis, and of criminals and gang members coming through. It is national security. It's a national emergency. We'll be letting you know fairly soon.
Have you considered using emergency powers to grant yourself authorities to build this wall without congressional approval? And second,
yes,
on
I have.
Mexico, you have.
Yes, I have. And I can do it if I want.
So you don't need congressional approval to build the wall?
No, we can use them. Absolutely. We can call a national emergency because of the security of our country. Absolutely. No, we can do it. I haven't done it. I may do it. I may do it. But we can call a national emergency and build it very quickly. And it's another way of doing it. But if we can do it through a negotiated process, we're giving that a shot.
So is that a threat hanging over the Democrats?
I never threaten anybody. But I am allowed to do that.